Now, Tom, tell us about the Westport Credit Union. When was it founded?
Well, Westport Credit Union, it's just over 50 years old. It celebrated its 50th anniversary in November, November the 3rd of last year.
Who were the founding members at the time?
Some of the founding members that immediately come to mind now would be Martin Curry, former editor of the Mayo News, and Michael Gormley, former civil servant with Mayo County Council, Michael Brown, solicitor, and quite a number of other men from the town. The interesting thing about it was that how Westport Credit Union came about was Frank Duff, the founder of the Legion of Mary, was holding a meeting in Dublin, and a number of people from the Legion of Mary and St Patrick's Drama Club went to Dublin to listen to what he had to say. And his main message was that 1916 was over, dying for Ireland should become a thing of the past, that now was a time to live for Ireland rather than die for Ireland. And he challenged everybody in attendance that day for to go out and to come up with an idea that they could put to practical use within their own community. So when the lads came back to Westport, they gathered a few more people, some people from the Chamber of Commerce, I understand, of the day, and they sat around and threw a whole load of ideas around amongst themselves, what they thought would work pretty well in the town, give some employment and support the unemployed and the people who were marginal, well, on the margins of society. And they came up with this idea of credit union. Around the time they came up with the idea of the credit union, Philip Kern, a native of Clones in County Monaghan, he happened to be transferred to the Ulster Bank here in Westport. And when Philip arrived in the town, he was at a loose end and he wanted to become involved in the community. So he heard about the conversations going on about the idea of setting up a credit union. He made contact with what I now term the founding fathers, and he was invited into their group. He brought with him the knowledge base that a brother of his and an uncle of his were instrumental in founding the credit union above in Clones in County Monaghan. But he brought more than that. He also brought a direct connection to Nora Herlihy, who is now regarded as the mother of the Irish credit union movement. So they chatted and he put the lads in touch with Nora Herlihy, and she in fact, in reality, became the tutor to the Westport group. And after about 10 or 12 months of study of the credit union ethos, ideals, goals and all that sort of thing, they were finally given her blessing and sent off for to go and open a credit union in Westport.
And where was the first one opened?
The first credit union, it started above in the library in the town hall. Most people wouldn't remember that now. And later on then it progressed down to a room in the old railway hotel on the Mall. The railway hotel, it was known then as, but the old railway is actually the real term. And I'm delighted to be able to say that, like 50 years later, I'm one of the original members that actually joined the day that the credit union opened. And I always remember paying the fee, 2 and 6pence registration fee. I'm not sure what that would translate into today, but there is no registration fee anymore, of course. I hadn't a clue what it was about, but I saved as much as I could every week, whether it was 6pence, a shilling, 2 shillings or 10 shillings, whatever I could afford, I saved it, and it built up over the years. Most people didn't have much money then, but they saved what they could.
Who was the first president or chairman? Do you know?
Oh, that's I cannot say with any definite knowledge now.
Who have been chairman over the years?
Well, the people that had been chairman over the years included what do you call it from Maltamount Street? Paddy Hoban, the Lord of Mercy.
Was he long there?
Paddy went in for 2 terms. I think he was there for 3 years or 4 years, then he dropped out for a couple of years and then he went back in again. So I think he altogether put in about 8 years as chairman.
So term is how long?
Well, officially you get elected every year. Officially get elected every year. Then my father was chair, God be good to him. He was only about 3.5 years in the chair when he passed away. Who else? I think Michael Brown chairman for a while. I'm open to correction on that. Then I know Liam Grant became chairman, and he was actually chairman for 20 years, and I succeeded him into the role of the chair.
You're much here.
But that was 2013. Now, I'm the first chairman of Westport Credit Union to have been given the imprimatur of the Central Bank of Ireland, and that all came under the new legislation. And there are rules and regulations now as to what qualifications a person needs now before the Central Bank will consider them.
That arose because of the financial crisis, is it? And a suspicion that
the banking crisis of 2008, indeed, like the banking crisis really started back around 2006, and that changed everything. And what really happened was we went into a global meltdown. Economically speaking, the world went into a global meltdown. And the Irish government here, as we all know, were found very wanting when it came to bringing in legislation to protect the Irish economy, to protect the banks. And they hired in, at considerable cost to the Irish taxpayer, these large companies. The big boys, the information the big boys gave to the government of the day was, well, look, on the one hand you would say, and on the other hand, but at the end of the day, like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, take your pick. We really don't know the answer. Unfortunately, the government picked, well, I can't say that they picked wrong, but I can't say they picked right either. But what we do know is that either way we were going to get scorched. We mightn't have got scorched as much as we did, but the wrong decision, with hindsight, it appears, now was called, and of course we all know where we're at.
So are you still president? Are you?
No, I'm not the chairman now.
Or the chairman, yeah.
I pulled away from that position there in December. It's a very, very demanding position now, and while I was chairman, even though I'm only a volunteer, I was putting in an average, some weeks, 18 hours a week, just doing governance work, and it is demanding, and you have to keep the whole board with you. On top of that, the work. I almost sound like Brian Linehan now when I say this, but I remember Brian Linehan saying, "Look, the heavy work has now been done." What I did during my term, and it was exhausting work, was I was to bring in and put into effect the new legislation and the new rules and regulations, which are fairly demanding, and I to sell that to the board and bring them all on board and get them working in harmony. So what's left now for the present chairman, to give it a legal term, is very, very little. So running the credit union should be easy enough from here on in.
Do you have any members?
The membership at the moment, it's up around, I think it's around 12,100, with assets somewhere in the region of 86 million. I think it is possible that within the next 2 years, Westport Credit Union will have gone over the 100 million plus. And the reason for that is not so much that Westport members will be saving, but there are 2 credit unions that in theory at this point in time should be coming on board, because the ways the whole credit union movement is now going, the smaller credit unions, they either go into resolution, i.e. go out of business, or they transfer over into a bigger credit union where they have safety in numbers.
Is there any advantages of joining a credit union?
Well,
rather than going to a bank?
Well, if you're looking for interest, if you're looking for interest rates, first of all, like the interest rate, look, it's a Hobson's choice, you know. The membership, being a member of the credit union, of course, it brings great advantages in the sense, we'll say, for example, unlike in the bank, you save your money in the bank, you save your money in the credit union. The big difference is your savings, euro for euro, are insured in the credit union. Your borrowings, euro for euro, are insured in the credit union, so that in the event, we'll say, for example, if you were to die suddenly and you had a substantial loan out, the outstanding loan would immediately be wiped off, and your next of kin, whether it be your wife or family, you know, wouldn't be saddled with a debt burden. Compare that to the banks. The banks come after you for every last cent.
Do you get defaulters?
Defaulters, of course. Yeah, you'll get people. You will get people that hit on hard times, and the original legal agreement that they signed up to, they just find in, whether it's through loss of employment or illness or other, that they're no longer able to maintain the repayments on the loan that they took out. But generally speaking, like the majority of the people who take out loans and find themselves going into arrears, they do come in and they talk and renegotiate a new repayment scheme. But yes, there are casualties.
Do you get chancers?
Do you get chancers?
Yeah.
I can't say with my hand in my heart that you get chancers.
But you can spot them. You can spot them. Yeah. You can spot them.
Oh God, you can spot them. Well, I can tell you this much, that like every credit union, like Westport Credit Union, we're all members of the Credit Bureau of Ireland. So when a person comes in for a loan, it doesn't matter what you have in savings. You come in for a loan, you're checked against your credit rating in the credit bank, okay. And so everything is known about you before you even leave the counter.
So will you be left alone?
Westport Credit Union will be left alone, but will Westport Credit Union, Ballinrobe, Castlebar, Ballinrobe...
The whole movement, yeah?
The whole movement, no. It'll have to change because the movement itself is finished. The reason I say that is that the credit unions have reached a plateau in this country. There's nowhere else to go now except to amalgamate. So what you're going to see over the next couple of years, a mass amalgamation of the smaller credit unions. Some will go into a resolution, and some of the big ones will amalgamate with even bigger ones, making a greater body. And a good example of where the credit union is going, and what I was saying tonight, where I see the credit union movement going, the mortgage that we're just hearing about now, that will be administered from the central head office in Dublin, the Irish League of Credit Unions. What I see happening is, in the fullness of time, it is going to happen, because it has to happen, that you're going to have central headquarters, whether it's in Dublin or somewhere else. It'll be like the central bank. It'll have a large amount of money there, and you'll have a couple of regional major offices around the country, and the rest of the large credit unions, they will be feeding in to that regional office, but it's head office that will be calling the shots. Volunteerism will go, and it'll become fully professionalised.
Will the government grab it?
The government probably won't.